First meeting of CCEC of 2024. Happy New Year, everyone. To order and ask staff to call the roll.
President Curry,
Here.
Vice President Figueroa Cole,
Here.
Alder Vitiver,
Here.
Alder Madison,
Here.
Alder Govindarajan,
Here.
Alder Conklin,
Present.
Alder Evers,
Here.
and Alder Bennett is not here. You have quorum.
Thank you, Karen. We do have public comment. Nope. That is for Common Council. Sorry.
One registrant not wishing to speak.
Okay. So we do not have any public comments. So then I will go into entertaining a motion for approval of minutes from our last meeting, which was November 21st, 2023. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second, Alder Vitiver.
Second.
Thank you. And unless I see or hear otherwise, I will assume unanimous consent. Approval of our minutes. Seeing none, thank you. That passes. At this time, I will also call for disclosures and recusals of the body, making any required disclosure recusals under the Ethics Code. Not seeing or hearing any, I'm going to assume that means there is none and move us into our agenda. So our first item for consideration is Agenda Item 2, Legislative File 75926, by title only, repealing sections of the MGO and amending our ordinance to combine the City County Homeless Issues Committee, Landlord and Tenant Issues Committee, and Housing Strategy Committee. And I believe Mr. Tucker is here to give us a presentation on this.
I am. Not much of a presentation, just more of a status update to tell you where this is at. I was asked by Vice President Figueroa Cole to attend tonight. Nice to see you all on this snowy night. Nice to see you all virtually versus in person. This is good. Staying home is good. The matter of committee consolidation, just to give you an update on this, I think this is maybe a little bit of a repeat for Alder Conklin, who sits on Landlord Tenant Issues Committee. She probably heard me say this thing a couple times. But where we're at, just first to get started, the committee consolidation that is being drafted right now, and as hopefully the draft is going to be completed, I heard later this week, involves a consolidation of the Landlord and Tenant Issues Committee and the Housing Strategy Committee. It does not include the City County Homeless Issues Committee. That being a City County committee, there were some technical issues that we're not going to make that part of a functional consolidation. So the work we're doing now involves just the combination of those two committees. And what's happened to date is I have been to those committees. I staffed the Landlord and Tenant Issues Committee, and I attended the Housing Strategy Committee. In November, the Landlord and Tenant Issues Committee met and talked about their roles and responsibilities and interest in seeing what the new committee structure and function would look like, the types of things that are appropriate to be included in that committee to make sure that the matters that are under their policy advisement are picked up in this new ordinance. That information has been shared with the city attorney that's drafting the ordinance, and they're working on consolidating those in. They went through the ordinances and looked at not only what they did, but also what Housing Strategy did, and had a good conversation about their interest moving forward. I had a similar conversation with Housing Strategy to share any thoughts that they have about how the committee structure might incorporate what they're involved in. They did not have a discussion yet at one of their agendas about what they would want to see, but we're still going to go through the ordinances and make sure that all the things that would be falling into their lap are included in the draft. The plan is for the draft to be prepared and for an equity analysis of the draft to occur here in January, as soon as the draft is ready. I'm working with Lynette Rhodes on setting up that. Once the equity analysis is done, if there are recommendations for changes to the draft, we'll go through those, get the draft to the sponsors for finalization. And once that final draft is ready, it'll be attached to the Legistar and will show back up at Landlord and Tenant Issues Committee and the Housing Strategy Committee meetings, hopefully in February. They meet in middle to late February, but possibly March if we can't meet those deadlines. That'll be an opportunity for those committees to review how the new super committee functions or whatever, and provide their recommendation, and with the goal being to bring the committee consolidation ordinance back to the Common Council in March at its second meeting. We do have a little bit of space in there in case there are some cancellations and things like that, but we're real serious about bringing it back for that second meeting in March under the current City Council leadership structure. So with that, I'll answer any questions anybody may have.
Go ahead, Alder Evers.
Yeah, this may not be so much for you, Matt, appreciate the brief sketch, but for alders or sponsors, I'm just curious about the name. It seems to be a little unwieldy. We have the Housing Strategy Committee. We don't have the Housing Strategies Committee. So it just seemed a little bit of a mouthful to speak about housing policies and procedures, because policy is itself a plural noun in most of its uses. When you talk about city policy, you're thinking about, multiple aspects of that. And I would prefer if this were the Housing Policy and Procedures Committee or blah, blah, blah. I just think it's too much of a mouthful to have it housing policies and procedures. That's a minor point, and I'm not going to argue about it one way or another. So if you want to keep it that way, that's fine.
I think we gathered what you said, but there was a brief moment where we lost audio with you, Alder Evers. Does that complete, or you still have a question?
No, I'm complete. Thanks.
Thank you. Alder Wahili? You're muted and we can't hear you if you're speaking, Alder.
Sorry.
There you go.
So is this going forward with what was originally proposed? As I remember, the City-County Homeless Issue Committee was removed because of the county involvement in terms of budget. So I missed the presentation from Matt. Just joined a little bit late, but does that mean all these three committees will be joined as one committee? Or, what's the proposed changes?
I'll run through that with you, Alder Wahili again. So the plan is to not include the City-County Homeless Issues Committees. There's some sort of technical reasons why city and county joint committee doesn't fit into the future city committee relating to city policy and city rules and regulations. So City County Homeless Issues Committee is going to not be included in the new consolidation draft. It'll only be the Landlord and Tenant Issues Committee and the Housing Strategy Committee. Sorry.
Thank you.
I will point, if I could point out one thing too, I didn't mention it, but in Legistar, attached to this legislative ID is a sort of a document that's a collection of things that Vice President Figueroa Cole prepared. It's very detailed and thorough. It kind of shows all of the different type of stuff that arrives at these committees, and probably worth taking a look at if you're curious on the matter, you want to learn a little bit more. It's been something we're looking at, and as we're working on this draft.
Thank you.
Vice President Figueroa Cole.
Thank you. So thank you for the feedback, Alder Evers. I think that's kind of the things that Matt and the team can definitely take back to the risk analysis team. So Matt, can you explain again? I trying to open the agenda and I can't find myself my way back there. But the title still says the three committees, right? The title of the ordinance change.
The legislative ID that this is attached to still says that the
Okay.
three committees, because we started with that
Yeah.
February of 2023.
I found it. Perfect. So can you explain why can we change the title? Or is it, I mean, is there something that we can just change the title in a meeting like this?
No, I think what we'll do is we'll pull it together and try and figure out what the appropriate name for this committee should be. I think that's a discussion we can have.
That would be the title, like what Tag was talking about. I mean, the title of this. to
Oh, the
just take
legislative
out
ID?
The legislative ID title. Can that be
Yeah.
changed?
Yeah, I'll talk to Attorney Haas and the folks over in the Legistar experts on how we can see if we can modify the blurb in Legistar to get rid of the City County Homeless Issues Committee as lead on there, because that has been recurring confusing. I get it.
Yes. If that cannot be that, I just wanted to understand then why we couldn't just scratch that out. That's really my question at this moment. Thank you.
I don't know. We can find out. I'd love for that to happen too. I'll put that on my list of things to tackle.
Okay. All right. Well, other than that, thanks for the update. I really appreciate it. I know it has been a long path here, but we are, again, this is like the second time we did one for the transportation. So this is kind of the second run at this, and we're just trying to use this to build the steps or provide some guidelines on how to make these changes in the future. So it's a learning process, and I'm very happy that you guys are supportive and have helped to get us moving. So thanks for the presentation.
Thank you, Vice President. Any other? Alder Vitiver.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if the sponsors would be open to some of the languages about having one representative from certain groups. And I'm wondering if they'd be open to saying at least one, just recognizing that there may be more than one person who represents those groups that we might want to have on the committee.
Thank you for the comment. I see some head nodding. Not seeing any other hands raised or anyone's mics muted. I'm assuming all questions have been answered, and that the advisement's suggestion to add at least, I may not be getting that wording exactly correct, but some suggestion to edit for words. Also, I feel like some of the presentations that will be before the Committee of the Whole or Common Council before our meetings will also kind of keep alders updated on how some of the policy influence conversations and changes are happening live in our BCCs. So not seeing any other hands raised, I will assume that allows us to move on to the next agenda item. Vice President Figueroa Cole.
If we are going to capture the comments about the members, that's great. Let's also capture the comments about the title to be more at least the feedback that TAC provided, so that can be a starting point for the president analysis people to take it from. I don't know if that's going to be part of the agenda. That'd be great if both comments are included. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. It's not a for vote item on tonight's agenda.
For the minutes, I meant.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah,
Thank
for the
you. We'll make
minutes.
sure it reflects. All right. Before moving on, I'll pause. All right. Not seeing any other hands, I'll move us on to our next agenda item, which is agenda item 3, legislative file 80671, amending certain sections of the Madison General Ordinances related to filling Common Council vacancies to amend the process for filing Common Council vacancies. I know Attorney Haas is here with us. I don't believe we have a presentation on this, so I will entertain questions, discussion from members. I know Alder, thank you, Alder Wahili, for being here with us today as the lead sponsor. Maybe if you, not to put you on the spot, but if you could provide maybe some comments for us as we move into discussion and question.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. So this ordinance requires the Common Council Executive Committee. There's two components. One is the appointment or recommendation for the person that's being appointed, and the other one is how we do the appointment. So in one component, the ordinance requires the executive committee to rank its top preferred candidates to fill the vacancy for the elder position. So in other words, if there are more than 3 or 2 more people, then the executive committee will rank those 2, 3 or 5, whatever, and recommend 2 candidates for ranking. The other component is for elders who have been serving at the council less than the time. Perhaps they can be the executive committee can call for special election if the elder's term is more than a year, so that the district can have an input in filling that vacancy. So prior to November 15, if an elder resigns, then the Common Council, we announce a special election for April election, and then that goes from way forward. In the meantime, before the election, there will be another appointment. So during the election, there will be an appointment, but also the appointment is a process of ranking the candidates. So that's my reason for doing this. Is just like, more of district input in the filling the position for the elder. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Are there direct questions from either what Alder Wahili just explained or questions based on the draft in front of us? Alder Govindarajan.
Thank you. I would love for an explanation of how the process currently works. I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Since we are kind of going into a cycle of this, I see Karen is busy taking minutes. I will do my best and hope that Karen and Vice President Figueroa Cole can fill in if there are things that I miss. But once a alder either officially resigns or is no longer able to serve in that capacity, that then launches the notice where there's generally a news release that's put out indicating that there is a vacancy. I just had a brain fart. Making sure that interested applicants can know that they are in that district and eligible to serve in that space, and then details the application process, what we're asking for as an application, how to receive the application materials, and then the deadline for receiving applications. CCEC is the committee that is tasked then with receiving those, and council leadership then takes the lead on coordinating, coming up to an agreement on a process for how the interviews will run for candidates who have successfully completed all of the application material by the deadline. Then CCEC, there's a meeting that's typically devoted to holding interviews with those applicants. In previous CCEC year, their last cohort, when we had quite a few turnover in districts throughout the city, we were all virtual. And so depending on how many applicants there's either 1 or 2 rounds of interview questions. And then at the end of that, or the direction, all CCEC members then provided a ballot electronically that was then tallied, and then depending on the round, candidates were eliminated from multiple to one. And then it's a vote of the committee, and then the vote of CCEC then goes before council, and council then has the final vote. I think I got most of it. Alder Govindarajan, was there any clarification or anything that wasn't clear in that response?
That was perfect. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Alder Conklin.
Thank you, President Curry. So where is the draft of this? I don't see where the draft is of what's wanting to be changed and what I don't see that. So is that somewhere?
Yes, Alder, in Legistar. So I have it up in front of me. There are two proposed changes. So the first one is, instead of nominating one candidate from CCEC, the committee will rank at least its top two preferred candidates. And then the second change is regarding timing. So if the vacancy occurs after November 15th, excuse me.
You're muted now. You muted yourself. Okay.
Yeah, it's a snow day, and I had to remind my children I was at work. Sorry about that.
Oh. All right, let them know.
The second one then is, if the vacancy occurs on or prior to November 15th, then there would be a special election scheduled on the same day as the spring election. So taking Attorney Hash, you may need to correct me, but if we would move to a special election, would that eliminate CCEC's involvement in the appointment of an interim?
Yes, under the proposed ordinance, CCEC would not appoint an alder. That's if the vacancy occurs on or prior to November 15th of the first year of the alder's term. So basically in the first 7 months of the term.
So, Attorney Haas, with what you're saying, then, if someone puts in their resignation before November 15th, we would wait until April to appoint somebody to that position. Is that what this is trying to say?
I'm sorry. I misspoke.
Okay.
I misspoke. There is an appointment. It says that there would be a special election. So that person could run for election the next April. There would be an appointment, but it would only be until the following April instead of for the rest of that term. I apologize.
Okay. So I'm starting to get it now. So if they, in their 2-year term, if they put in their resignation before November, which would only be, 5 months? Right.
November, the first year, right? That's 7 months, I think.
Okay. So if they put their resignation in before that, the CCEC would still appoint somebody as an interim, basically, and then that person and or other people would be still campaigning to run an election in April, the following that 1 year in.
Right. And we're trying to decide what date to choose. And I think the reason that November 15th date was chosen is because the clerk's office has to publish a notice by, I think, the 4th Tuesday in November in the paper to let people know what offices will be up at the following April election, so that people have noticed that as of December 1st, they can start circulating nomination papers. So that's why that November 15th date was chosen.
Right. So then what's the plan for people who do it after the case that we have right now? Then what's the plan for that? Still an interim and then call a special elections, or is it too late to call the special election?
Right. So, right, it would be the same process as we've had before. The CCEC makes a recommendation and the council appoints. And I will maybe have to back up a second. The state statutes really allow a lot of options here. They used to be more restricted, but the current statutes say the council can appoint, the council can call a special election, or the council could leave the position vacant until the next regular election for that position. the reason I think we discussed not or having that cutoff date is because once you get past the April election, you're dealing with either no election scheduled for the rest of that calendar year or elections in August and November. And so, and you're not only dealing with a shorter time frame for an appointed alder to serve, but if you want to call a special election on a date where there is not another election already scheduled, the city has more cost to it. If we're going to have a new date where this office is the only thing on the ballot, and if you have a special election in November of an even numbered year, and the term expires the following spring, the person would be turning right around and running for another election immediately.
And Attorney Haas, how much does it cost? How much in city resources? Excuse me. How much city resources would it cost to put on a special election for one district on a ballot? Do you have any idea?
I don't. I think the clerk's office has a good estimate for budget purposes, but it's the cost of printing ballots, programming voting equipment, and hiring poll workers, and tabulating results and all that. So, it's one thing if you're adding an office to an already scheduled election, then some of the costs for the ballot printing are prorated with the county. But if the city is the only jurisdiction that has an office on the ballot, then we pay for all of the costs.
I would be very interested to get those numbers. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Conklin. Vice President Figueroa Cole.
I have two separate questions, but I'm going to back up the first one to stay on this line. So we do have spring elections now every year because of the staggered terms, right? So every year we will have someone in the ballot, regardless. So what we're saying is it's special because that election coming up may not be on the right odd or even number. Right, so that's what makes it special. So if someone that is on a pair in an even district is leaving and that's the even year, then it's not special. But if someone is on the not even, in the odd year, I'm sorry, I need my words, in the odd year, then that is what makes it special. But we have elections now because of the staggering thing every year. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I guess that wasn't a question. I see heads going up and down. So, okay, good. So then my question is, from the process that President Curry explained about the appointment steps or, the what we follow today, I guess I have a question for Attorney Haas on that. So the last step on that is for whatever nomination CCEC makes to come to council for a final vote. But can you elaborate on what are options when the nomination comes to council, please?
Sure. I'm just trying to pull up the rest of the ordinance here. Okay. Yeah, subsection 4 says the Common Council shall appoint and confirm the recommended candidate or appoint and confirm another candidate from among the applicants.
Oh, I didn't even. Thank you for clarifying that. So actually the Common Council will if they don't agree with the candidate that was presented, they are then required to pick somebody else. It doesn't come back to council, doesn't get another referral. It just then they pick from whoever else was in the list. Is that what you just explained?
Correct. CCEC, currently CCEC is required to recommend a candidate or more than one candidate, but the council is free to choose anybody from among the list of applicants.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Evers.
Yeah, this is a question for Alder Haley, who's the sponsor. Trying to understand, are you putting forth ranked choice voting so that whoever gets the top rank would be selected? Are you saying that where everybody ranks their choices and just makes that available to council to look at the ranking? I mean, is this a selection process that has the recommendation process currently? And I'll just give it. This is a subtext for my question. The vote of the CCEC historically has been one that council has endorsed. I don't know of any precedent where council turned down the selection of CCEC. I could see the advantage of ranked choice voting to be able to make that decision. I'm not sure that the ranking of all the candidates being made public is something that we would want to do from I just don't know if that's necessary. Are you looking for ranked choice voting, or are you looking that we simply use rankings to recommend two people instead of one?
Yeah, thanks, Alder Evers, for the question. So basically, it's ranking. Let's say we have 5 candidates, and the CCEC will make recommendation 2. I don't know if you guys have been part of the CCEC when Karen was being hired at from the CCEC. So they can be 5 candidates, and always you have the first 2 choices, and those 2 choices will be recommended to the council, and the council can choose from those in terms of ranking. Does that answer your question?
Well, not really. I'm a little confused. So you're using ranked choice voting not to select a single recommendation, but to recommend the top 2.
The top 2,
Correct.
yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And why is it necessary that we present 2 choices to council to vote on as opposed to 1?
The reason why, and it's I don't know who asked the previous questions, nomination for 1 person. And then Attorney has said that the council has the ability to call someone from the list to be considered. That can create a lot of chaos in the process, as instead of having 2 top choices, and we can just ask follow-up questions and make our selection as a rank from the council floor. So basically, if we were to choose, let's say you recommended candidate X, and then someone else wants candidate Y, that can be really, problematic. And I see Attorney House raising his hand. Maybe he can chip in. The reason, I don't know.
Well, if I may follow up then, you say this can cause chaos. Can you give any examples where it's caused chaos in the past?
We never had that choice, but this is a new choice. When we changed the ordinance of the CCEC, instead of the CCEC member hire the the chief of staff, there was a process, and that process was approved, and it worked. So similar. It will be, similar process instead of just having, because the reason also is a lot of our colleagues do not attend the CCEC, but having 2 choice, that will be easier rather than just saying that the 1 person with a rubber stamp. I think it will be easier so that, other alders can have the choice to ask questions, those 2 candidates that have been recommended.
I understand, Alder Haley, but you said that the current system can cause chaos because.
No, when we.
Let me finish. Let me finish. That the current system could cause chaos because council could choose to do someone else. Currently, that's the case. Right now, we recommend CCEC, this body recommends one person to council, and council has the possibility of choosing somebody else currently. You are saying that can cause chaos. And my question is, can you give an example where that chaos has occurred in the past?
I think maybe if I just rephrase the statement, not only chaos, but also sometimes, when, you need to bring someone, you don't have the time to attend the meeting, number one. Number two, you have one person that has been recommended that you don't know because it's just in the consent agenda. You don't have time to respond or maybe interact with that person who has been selected. But these two candidates that you can have the time and the opportunity to interact with them and choose from them. But when you have one candidate, that means that you already selected that person, and maybe it's just in the consent agenda, and that's it. There's no option to ask that those questions or interacting with the new recommended alder. So this, I might maybe the case is is different term, but the process of participating from the larger party is better in this process.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Alder Evers. Alder Madison.
Thank you, President Curry. I had the same question as Alder Conklin, just about, I have a 3-year-old nephew who just got another phone. So really, I wanted to understand cost, but I also wanted to make sure, because I'm kind of been working on something else at the same time, is I understand that costs haven't been figured out, but I do want to understand, are we being asked to vote on this tonight, or are we just discussing to kind of bring it back and make a decision in the future?
This is an item for voting that will be on CC agenda.
Thanks for clarifying. So because we don't understand any future costs right now, I know I wouldn't support it without understanding costs. I just also wouldn't want the full common council to sort of be, I don't know, debating 2 or 3 people in front of council. So I do think, just having gone through the process, I do remember hearing from alders who had watched the video who did not attend CCEC for my own discussion. And so I would encourage, maybe CCEC can just over-encourage alders who could not attend that night, or send out reminders that this is happening. And Karen always sends us reminders, just reminding people that this interview is happening, the interviews are happening tonight, and that we encourage you to watch these videos, before we vote on whatever the recommended person is. I would just steer us away from putting a couple people in front of common council to sort of, that's just uncomfortable for people. So I just would steer away from that. And I'm very much uncomfortable voting on something without understanding the cost for the second part of it. So.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Rahili.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of, Tony has explained that if we did not have staggering election, then that will be a significant cost. But since we are having election every year, I don't think that the cost will be any more than what other alders who are in the ballot will be. It's just like, based on the conversation I had with Attorney Hassan, Attorney Hassan, you can correct me. The only things that we have to do is just the announcement in terms of that this position is coming up available. But the rest of it is, since we're having election every year, it will be on the ballot regardless. If there's there's a vacant. If we had the current situation where there's no staggering, then I wouldn't be proposing this, because it will be a significant cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Bennett. I'm sorry, Attorney Haas, you've had your hand up. Did you want to?
Sure. Thank you. 3 quick points. As a fiscal note indicates, no appropriation is required, and that is because of what Alder Haley just referred to. I was citing costs if there was not already an election scheduled. But because there would always be a city election in future Aprils in every year, there really is not going to be any significant cost to adding one office to the ballot. As far as a couple of other issues came up, as far as the ranking of it, the proposed ordinance does not specify that ranking at least the top two applicants is required to be done by ranked choice voting. It just says CCEC shall rank at least the top two candidates. So they could use ranked choice voting. CCEC could, vote first on the top choice and then on the second choice, but ranked choice voting is not required. And finally, the options for the council do not change under this ordinance. The separate subsection says that the council can appoint the recommended applicant, reject the nomination, or choose somebody from the remaining pool of applicants. So if the intent is to change the options for the council, then this ordinance proposal would need to be tweaked. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Haas. Hoping that answered some of the questions that are still on the table. Alder Govindarajan?
Thank you.
Or I'm
Alder
sorry.
Was before me.
Yeah, I was like, the queue moved around. I believe Alder Bennett was next. Alder
Thanks. I had some connectivity issues, so I didn't know how some of the queue ran on. I have a couple questions. First, I just wanted to clarify that, so let's say someone left before November. Does that mean we would not be able to appoint someone up until April of that election?
Attorney Haas, I think that's for you.
No, there would be an appointment made until the April election. That person would serve until the April election results were certified and the new person was sworn in.
Okay, so like there could still be an appointment for those
Correct.
for that time period. Okay.
It's just that they would serve for a shorter period of time.
Okay. Yeah, that answered my main question. I have like a few comments, but I can hold off till everyone gets their questions in.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Govindarajan, I'm sorry, I forgot what you said last time, but
No,
I think you're
right.
up on queue.
This is more of a comment rather than a question, so I can wait for that as well.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Evers and Vice President Figueroa Cole, questions?
No questions. I'm,
Discussion?
Discussion, yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I do support the idea of having the election happen right at the, whenever the next election is, regardless of what, if it's an even or odd district. However, does that mean then that, I think, Mike, you answered this, but I just want to confirm, does that mean that that person who ran for that year has to, if he's not on the right, if he's out of order, does he have to then run again the following year to get back in the cycle?
Correct. Right. So the special election, whoever wins the special election would then serve the remainder of that term and would then need to run again the following year.
So it doesn't matter then, they will have to run anyway, if it's the 2-year term or okay. I hadn't thought about that part of it. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Wahili, question? No. Question or discussion?
No, just to clarify what Alder Vice President asked. So basically, the appointment or the election is just finishing up that period of that particular alder. So, for example, if I am one even number and I left before April, then that person will be before November 15. Then that person will be appointed until, no, they will run for the office until April of 2025. And then they still have to run as of January 2025 for the next two slate of 2027.
I got it. So can I ask one more question of you, please?
Sure.
So if the person that volunteers to cover the term doesn't, because I mean, running, we all know how much fun is running elections and how much money that is. So if the person that volunteers to cover the gap doesn't want to run, then what happens? We have to go through again to pick another person?
No, the person, for example, let's take me. So I left the council November 15. The council will appoint between now. Between November to April of 2025. In this case, this year it's gone. But what I'm saying is the year that I have been selected, then between that time, you will have a year and a half to serve as interim. But when your term comes in, then you will either run, because after 2026, everybody will run 2 years. The only difference is 2025, where the odd numbers will have 2 years and the even numbers will have 1 year.
So by saying the first year, we're ensuring that that person serves more than 1 year.
Yes.
It's not that quick. Like we're going to be like, oh, I just got elected and have to run again next year. It will be more than 1 year that they will be serving.
Mm-hmm. They'll be serving more than the year they have been elected. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Vice President. Complete your questions. Okay, yes. All right. I believe Alder Bennett was first for discussion.
Sure. Thank you so much, Chair. I just wanted to say that for me personally, I'm fine with the change for the special election. I think that there is precedent for that, and it might not be on all of your radar, but from my past with District 8, in 2019, the elected District 8 alder left in June so they were only in the position for 3 months. Then there was an appointed position, Sally Ward, until April of 2020, at which point Max Pesce-Giacomo was elected in a special election. So that to me does not seem abnormal, and I think that's totally fine. I'm not totally sure the first part with the ranked choice voting and bringing forward 2 candidates to the Common Council accomplishes everything that we hope it would, though I'm not opposed to it. I think that I can totally understand how if CCEC presents 2 candidates or presents only 1 candidate in front of Common Council for approval, it does kind of inadvertently silence other council members that aren't on CCEC or discourages them from pushing back and putting up a candidate that they'd prefer. Though I do believe that even if we put up 2 candidates, let's say that the 2 candidates that CCEC puts up, the rest, some other council members still disagree with, and they'd prefer another candidate, we'd still be put in a situation where we'd have to put forward another candidate. And thus, I think that if the goal is to make sure that all council members have the opportunity to weigh into a new alder, we might want to move towards like doing interviews and all of that into a special common council meeting rather than just CCEC, because it is such an important decision for council and for the city of Madison that might be something that the whole body should take part in and make the time to do so. So those are my two main comments about this, and then about the proposal. And then lastly, I would just suggest that we think about if there is any language that we'd want to put in place about appointing a position the November before an election, because I think we ran into this with District 12. That's why we decided to appoint Barbara, because if we had appointed a person, like all the people that were going to be applying for the position were already like going to be on the ballot. And I don't think it would have been right for us to make a decision based off of people that are literally on the ballot and giving people that, I don't know, upper hand. So it might be good if we do go down this route of approving this change to also include provisions to maybe, I don't know, not take, or something around not about appointments after November when papers are due for the next election in that Alders district. That's all my comments.
Thanks, Alder. Just to clarify, you're not proposing that change to the draft, correct?
No, I'm just suggesting something that we might want to consider.
Thank you. Per ordinance, and the reason for District 12 that previously elected either council or county board folks were asked for is a provision that's allowed in the ordinance for choosing to fill a vacancy. But thank you for your comments. Alder Govindarajan.
Thank you. I think this has been a very educational conversation for me in a way, because I haven't really gone through the process of an appointment in the past. That will change in 2 weeks, but I think where I'm at is with this is kind of, I'm a little bit concerned about having two candidates brought up at Common Council. And the reason for this is a little bit different. It's, in a way, it brings me back to our very first council meeting, where, at least for the newer alders, we had to choose between one person we didn't know for president that well, or another person we didn't know that well for president. Because for the most part, we didn't really interact with many of the alders, at least myself. I guess I can speak for myself here. I only knew Alder Bennett before coming on to council, and I don't know if it's really going to be really productive to have a debate on the council floor about two people who we may or may not know, maybe from committees or something like that. But I do think that concern is there. Obviously, the vote itself, I hear, is going to be electronic and might not be like super public. I don't know. But the debate itself might get a little bit into an individual's reputation or whatever it might be. And I do think that's something I would want to stray away from, at least at council. If that happens at CCEC, maybe that makes a little bit more sense to me, but I think that's kind of what's holding me back at the moment. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Evers.
Thanks, President. I'm not inclined to support this just because I don't think the current system is broken. I don't think this improves the current system significantly. I don't know that it's ever been chaotic. This is an administrative body. It's trusted by the council members to make recommendations on a number of things. The council doesn't have to go along with the recommendations. When a U.S. senator steps down and resigns midway through, the governor appoints the replacement. When a U.S. congressperson from the House of Representatives steps down, the governor appoints the replacement. When a state legislature steps down halfway through, there are no special elections. There's an appointment. There's not really a need for special elections in this instance, in my mind. This current system's not broken. I like the idea of ranked choice voting. I think that recommendation would be something CCEC should consider, but otherwise I won't be supporting this. I appreciate the work that's been done on it, but I think it's kind of redundant, and the current system has worked for years, and I don't see any problem with it. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder Conklin.
Thank you, President Curry. I would just like to reiterate what Alder Evers said, because I agree the same way. The system's not broke. Let's not fix it. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I think that's that's what we're tasked to do here at the CCEC, is make appointments and make recommendation for the body as a whole. And I think it has been working just fine, and I would like to keep the system the way that it is. So thank you.
Vice President Figueroa Cole.
Well, I'd like to actually put an amendment forward. I think having the staggering terms is a plus here. So this is an opportunity for process improvements on that regard. So I would like to change the first paragraph under 3, the section 3, to remove the wording, if more than one individual applies for the position, the committee shall rank at least its top 2 preferred candidates. Remove that and then go with the rest of the change. So I'm motion to get that done. I can send an email out to everyone.
Yes, please.
If I get a second for that.
Do we have a second to the amendment?
Second.
Thank you. And yes, please email that to members.
I will.
Can I ask I'm rusty. It's been a minute since we've met. Can we move into the council office agenda item while we wait for that to come through, or do we have to wait to vote to move forward with the agenda?
You can do it either way. I mean, I'm assuming it's been emailed or will be shortly. It's already been drafted.
Yeah, I has already actually does the CCC email goes to all of us or not? Doesn't, right? I don't think so.
You could just send it to all alders and
Oh, that's a good point. I just don't have any. I didn't want to type anything on it, so Karen, I forwarded it to you to send to everybody, but I don't know if you have
If
it.
there's no objection from the body, while we're waiting for that to come through, I'd like to move forward. But Karen, does that put you in a spot where you're able to?
I am trying to. Oh, I just got something.
I'm
Vice
sending it
President,
back
would you
to
like me
everybody.
to send it out to CCC?
I
got
just
an
gonna send to all others like you all suggested.
Oh.
I'm not gonna put any wording. I'm sure it will be. We'll discuss it later, but I'm just gonna send it to everybody. There you go. You should get it now.
Okay. Oh, kind of seems like
Mailbox at the top, so please reflect to that. I will give maybe a minute or so, and then considering the amount of questions and discussion we had, probably move us to a roll call vote so we can move on and adjourn to be ready at 6:30.
I already got it back.
Alders Bennett and Evers, are your hands up from last time, or? I know Alder Bennett said she was having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to assume that is so. And assume that everyone has taken the time to read the minor edit that is highlighted in red and cross-out font. And considering that, I will ask us, Karen, to call the roll.
okay. Vice President Figueroa Cole,
Aye.
Just to be clear, we're voting. You're voting on the amended.
Amendment.
Yeah.
Right.
Vice President Figueroa call aye. Alder Vitever.
Aye.
Alder Vitever aye. Alder Madison.
No.
Alder Madison no. Alder Govindarajan.
Aye.
Alder Govindarajan aye. Alder Conklin. I'll come back to you. Alder Evers.
No.
Alder Evers no. Alder Conklin.
Dang, that was a fast comeback. No, I don't know. I'm still. I mean, we're just voting on the amendment part of just taking out if the more than one individual applies, then we'll rank the top two is taken out. But I still have a problem with this special election stuff. So I think I'm gonna say no on this.
Alder Conklin no. President Curry is non-voting, and Alder Bennett is alternate currently non-voting. So that is three ayes and 3 noes.
In the event of a tie, Attorney Haas.
Now you vote. Yep, you're right. President Curry, go ahead if you'd like to. You don't have to, but if you'd like to.
Aye.
Aye. With 4 ayes and 3 noes, the amendment passes. Now do we vote on the amended? Now it's amended. Are we doing it the super formal way? I think some folks think that that sounds like it. Let's just do that for clarity's sake. You don't have to roll call if you don't think it's necessary, but I think what we've got is the amended motion is now the main motion, which is does CCC vote to approve this item with the recommended changes that you all just passed?
So the vote before us is voting on the amended, which removes having 2 candidates nominated for CCEC to vote on. And due to the length of our discussion and questions, Alder Evers.
Yeah, I won't be supporting this. As I indicated before, the current system has worked fine and it's not broke, and I don't think we need to fix it.
Thank you. So let's do a roll call, unless Vice President Figueroa Cole, are you?
I was gonna say we voted on the recommendation to cancel, but so go proceed, please. That's it. I'm good.
Okay, on the now amended motion, recommendation to council with the recommendations you brought in. Vice President Figueroa Cole.
Aye.
Aye. Alder Vitever.
Aye.
Aye. Alder Madison.
No.
No. Alder Govindarajan.
Aye.
Aye. Alder Conklin.
No.
Alder Evers.
No.
And in the event of a tie, President Curry, you are able to vote if you choose. There's
Aye.
a tie. Aye. Okay. With 4 ayes and 3 noes, the amended motion passes.
Thank you, Karen. And that will move us into our, too many tabs open. 4th agenda item, legislative file 81382, council office updates.
Okay, I think everyone can see it there. All right, so couple of announcements about office closures and staff out of office. I always try to put those at the beginning of these if we see them, if we know about them ahead of time. And as we've been speaking about today, the District 19 interim alder interviews are taking place on January 23rd in person in MMB 215. MMB 215 is not quite ready for hybrid yet, so this meeting will be done the way that things used to be done back in the day, which is media team will cover it and stream it so folks can watch it from home if they like. It will also be recorded, but it won't be hybrid, so folks won't be able to remote in and for example, alders can't remote in and ask questions. So if everyone can plan the extra time for that. I think someone has a question. Alder Conklin?
I do. Thank you. So this is going to take place during our regular CCEC hours.
Yes, it's going to be the only item on the agenda, I believe, because of the time.
Okay, so next, in 2 weeks, Tuesday, in person for the interviews, because my cohort, I don't think we've ever done in-person interviews. So this is going to be way different for us, for me. Let me just speak for myself. So we've never done in person. We've always done virtual. So we're going to be at MMB for the 23rd for CCEC. During this time is when we'll conduct the interviews.
Yes, and thank you for that point, actually. We realized through discussion with leadership that the chamber is not a great space for interviews because it's very difficult to kind of get the right field of view and the videos. And there was a concern about that. And actually, it reminded me that in 2019 and before, CCC always met in MMB. So yeah, we had to reconfigure our thinking on that. And I would just say to everybody, come early so that we can get started right on time, given the time constraints. I see Vice President Figueroa Cole.
And to the point that we haven't done this before, we will be sending out, just like prior years, some email packet of what to expect for all of us. It's a new thing, but we learn together, but we'll make sure that that notification goes out just like we did last year. So we'll know what to expect.
Okay. Anything else about this item? Liz will be sending some New Year account updates. And so keep a watch on your inbox for those. We thought we would put in a pitch for recording your time as alders. She provided some instructions and tools in her December email. And we've found that some folks have found that they are here longer than they expected, perhaps. And we don't want to see anyone not be able to access the benefits. So we're just encouraging folks. I think it also helps give folks a sense of how much time they're putting into their work as alder. It's been obviously a topic of discussion quite a bit. I know it's a little bit on the tedious side, so folks aren't always thrilled with doing it. It's not a requirement, it's just a recommendation. And if you want to access the benefits after a year of recording it, you will need some recording. So Liz can give you more information about that, can send you everything again, can walk you through it, anything you need. Alder Madison.
I just wanted to ask if we use an app to just track our time. Just for me, it's easier to just press a button on the app and let it just run the time and then end it. And that's exportable. Is that okay?
I think that is okay for me because what I really need in order for this for folks to be able to want to claim their time later on, especially, is I want something that's a real-time tracking of your time. And so some folks have been doing this actually. And so they can show me a spreadsheet with a year's worth of time on it. And it's very clear that this was done in the moment and not back done. Do you know what I mean? What do you call it? Where you put it in after the fact. It really needs to be like a in the moment accurate time keeping. And then we have some, as far as I understand from Liz, and she can always help me. We can talk individually. As far as I understand from Liz, as long as we have a good a good log, we have some flexibility with when it gets into ESS, but we need that real-time log.
Okay.
so if you want to do it with an app and export it, I at this point, I'm not aware of any problem with that. If
Okay,
we find out something, we'll let you know, but it seems like a good way to start it off.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, M365. I'm not sure if you've noticed anything yet, but we really want to encourage folks to take advantage of the drop-in office hours, and also we can also set up appointments with IT to make sure you get your multi-factor authentication system set up properly. And also you can ask questions of them, and they believe very strongly that in person is better, because you can bring your phone, your device that you're going to do the MFA on, and they can look at your computer. So there was one today that I know some of you attended virtually. It was supposed to be in person, but due to the change to virtual. And then also there are 2 sessions you can drop in anytime during these sessions. And we're working on setting up additional with IT. They're also willing to do appointments as well. I think there will be additional sessions also as we get further. So on the 22nd, you all will be migrated to M365 email, which means then you'll be accessing email through M365. You need the MFA to be able to do that. And then I believe they're planning on offering more drop-in sessions as you get used to it and dig around in it. But right now, we really wanted to focus on getting folks to make sure that they're getting their MFA set up. There is an email from IT in your inboxes with instructions on how to set up MFA. So if you feel comfortable about tech, go for it. If, however, you would like any kind of guidance at all, please take advantage of this. If you can't make this one, contact us. We'll put you in touch with Abigail Ferguson from IT, who's working on this process. So we'll just keep on going. I think some of you had a chance to go. All right, today. All right. And then I just want to make another pitch. I've only missing information from a couple of you about whether or not you can make it to the facilitated policy discussion. So I believe, I think maybe only one person in this room has not responded one way or the other. We've got a really good turnout so far brewing. I'm really excited about this, but I want to get a better food count. So if you have not yet responded to the Outlook invite, please do. Very excited about this. And then the NAMI mental health will be after that. That's in February, and I'll be sending more information about that. I sent already invites. You can choose one, whether you want to come to the in-person afternoon or the virtual online. It should say evening session there, but in February. Oh yes, Alder Conklin.
Thank you, Karen. How long is the presentation on the 20th going to be?
So it is actually a very interactive, almost like it's like a workshop. So it's actually kind of ends up being kind of a retreat. So we're starting at 10. We're going to have coffee and snacks for you. The facilitated policy discussion, very interactive workshop with Abba Tucker from Mosaic. That goes from about 10 to 1. And then we have our lunch. And with our lunch and into the afternoon, I've invited some department staff, department heads from some of the topics that you'll be using as policy prompts for discussion in the morning. I've invited them to come have lunch with us all, and you can then talk to them informally, pick their brains, because you'll probably have lots of thoughts and creative juices flowing. And so it'll give you an opportunity to kind of talk with them, and, they can write down the questions and the follow-ups and things like that. You know what I mean? There was some interest in folks being able to kind of get that follow-up right then and there, instead of having to wait or send an email to ask questions or pick their brains. But, it's up to you. If you only stay until lunch, that's your call. The main program is 10 to 1. Then the lunch is right after.
And then questions. So thank you for your clarification.
Absolutely. Any other questions on any of this? Looking forward to it. Crossing fingers. All right. That's that.
Thank you, Karen. Seeing that we are close to the hour of 6 o'clock, our next agenda item covers future agenda items. I know that we have a list to operate from, and as I ask at usually all of these meetings to forward any suggested, recommended things CCEC would like to see to council leadership and our chief of staff. I will entertain if anyone has anything close in mind right now, but if not, go ahead, Alder Govindarajan.
Sorry, it's not a future agenda item, just a question for next meeting.
Sure.
I'm curious. So we have the interviews happening at the next CCEC. Is there anything we should do to prepare, or like, what's the format? What can we expect?
Yes, I know we all have a lot going on. So packets, CCEC did receive an email today that 5 applications were received. Council office staff is working on putting together the packets of information, which will include the applicants' information that was submitted. We do redact some confidential information, so that's why they're not being readily available at this moment. That will be sent out to review, and then also will be sent to all alders, along with the interview questions and detailing the process. So I guess once you all receive that email, if there are questions, please feel free to reach out to Karen, would probably be the lead in the office, but any of the office staff or council leadership. We will also be sending the questions beforehand to the applicants as well, so they are also prepared.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. All right. Not seeing any hands or hearing any comments about future agenda items, I would entertain motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And I will just assume unanimous consent. That is so. Thank you all. See you in 30 minutes.